Wayne Gretzky. Shohei Ohtani. I played baseball, but it was sort of slow.
Turks, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys. So, man, it is Fight Monday, it's Orange Monday, it's Black Monday. So markets crashed, people have turned on one another in Republican circles. I don't want to say it, don't make me say it. Told you. Okay, we got Bill Ackman and Elon Musk getting in the ring, not against each other. One's against Navarro, the other one's against Lutnick. We'll tell you all about it. We got podcasters fighting. We got a mess here. So the only thing that remains the same as we have massive turbulence, political and economic, because of the tariffs, is Israel's still number one.
Yeah.
Netanyahu has come and made his demands, and Donald Trump has bowed down again.
Maybe
so
not.
We'll get to that as well.
Maybe not.
So really? Well, it seems overwhelming. So, but let's find out.
We're gonna get to that later.
Okay.
All right, but before we do, I just want to kind of set the tone for the show today. You ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
In a world where people who voted for Trump, we're talking about big name public figures. In a world where those individuals are a little scared in going after Trump or jabbing Trump, they're instead going to jab each other. And that's really what the theme of the show is today. It's incredible. Let's get started with this.
The last 3 days coming into today has just been, not good. I went super viral when I said I lost $7 million. I'd kill to be back to losing $7 million. I haven't even looked. If I had to guess, I'm down in these last 3 days, probably close to 20. I don't know, like 10, 15% of my net worth, poof. I hate that I'm losing all this money. He's come up with this thing, don't join the panicking party, very funny.
Even with the stock market in absolute shambles, it appears that President Donald Trump is undeterred from implementing his tariffs policy. And we're gonna get back to Dave Portnoy in just a moment. Of course, an avid Trump supporter who has now maybe reconsidered his decision to be such a vocal proponent of Trump's. And if you're an American who's panicking, well, the president wants you to stop being weak and stupid. This is what he conveyed on Truth Social today, Cenk. He writes, the United States has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak, don't be stupid. Don't be a panikin, a new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. I will give him credit for panicking, because oftentimes he takes ownership of words that he hasn't come up with. But in this case, congratulations, Trump. You did come up with that word.
Yeah,
well done.
Well, let's see if it sticks. Okay, so first of all, I was given to understand that no Trump voter would ever break. No Trump person in media would ever dissent. I was told they were all 100% a cult, and there should be no conversations with them, only yelling. Interestingly, Portnoy turned on not just Trump, but Will Cain from Fox News and Clay Travis. And let's be honest, between Portnoy and Clay Travis, no one even knew that they were two separate people until now. But it turns out they're opposed to one another, at least in this particular case. And what's most important, guys, is that some set of independent media folks that supported Trump are now calling BS on the other guys. And so when they were lockstep and it was just Fox News and they had a monopoly on talking points and no one ever broke. But now Portnoy's going, you guys sound like idiots when you tell me that this was all planned and us shaving off 20% of our net wealth was some sort of genius strategy and that we should just stick to the talking points about how other people are panicking. No, I'm not gonna do that because that's really dumb.
So we're gonna get back to more of what he had to say in just a moment. But before we do, just to make sure we're all on the same page. As of this morning, the Dow was down 1,300 points. In fact, today marked the third straight day of declines. And on top of that, the S&P 500 officially entered bear territory, so no longer a bull market. The initial 10% baseline tariff, which is of course part of Trump's tariff policy, took effect at US seaports, airports, and customs warehouses on Thursday of last week. Higher taxes on goods from 57 larger trading partners are set to start later this week. Now, Trump was asked, what's going on, bro? Like, are you planning on negotiating for better trade deals and you're using the threat of these tariffs as a negotiating tool? Or are you for real? Are these the tariffs that will remain in place? And he basically told reporters today during a press conference sitting beside Benjamin Netanyahu, a little bit of both. Okay, so basically he is looking to negotiate trade deals with some countries, but some of these tariffs he believes will remain in place and will be permanent. But look, Trump is a man with a plan. Any more whining from China, and he'll hit them with even steeper tariffs. That's another message we got from Trump today. China issued retaliatory tariffs of 34% on top of their already record-setting tariffs. Non-monetary tariffs, illegal subsidization of companies, and massive long-term currency manipulation, despite my warning that any country that retaliates against the United States by issuing additional tariffs above and beyond their already existing long-term tariff abuse of our nation will be immediately met with new and substantially higher tariffs. And then here's the kicker. He says if China does not withdraw its 34% increase above their already long-term trading abuses by tomorrow, April 8th, the United States will impose additional tariffs on China, 50% effective April 9th. And that would be an additional 50% on top of the tariffs that Trump has already implemented against China. And he also threatened to call off his planned meetings with China and said that negotiations with countries that have requested meetings will take place immediately. In fact, the first country, of course, was the country of Israel, which Trump slapped 15% tariffs on their goods being imported to the United States. And so did Netanyahu get his way? About to get a little sneak peek into what their talks look like in this next clip.
Do you plan to reduce the tariffs that your government put on Israeli goods, 17%?
On where?
On Israeli goods, the 17%. Do you plan
Well,
to
we're
reduce
talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot. You know, we give Israel $4 billion a year. That's a lot. Congratulations, by the way. That's pretty good. But we give Israel billions of dollars a year. Billions. It's one of the highest of, and we give a lot of countries money. We take good care of our friends and we don't take care of our enemies. We're not taking care of our enemies anymore, but we do take care of our friends.
So non-committal in regard to, repealing the tariffs against Israeli products entering the United States. We'll see what Trump does, but I think he should triple those tariffs against Israel specifically. Cenk.
Yeah, no, okay, to be fair, Israel brought their tariffs down to zero, so they should be zero. But of course, Israel is the first to get in the door and to get the negotiations. Now, Trump didn't give in to him right away on the tariffs. I'll give him credit on that. On the other hand, he later promised to, again, for the US to control and own Gaza and to clear out all of the Palestinians from Gaza. So of course, still serving Israel through and through. So now back to the tariffs. If he does that 50% extra mental tariff on China, then the tariffs on China will be an astounding, absurd 104%. So guys, the chickens are gonna come home to roost. The stock market ain't it. Stock market is phase one. Phase two is when it hits you in the prices. That hasn't happened yet. But if these prices really, these tariffs stay, the prices go up, and then it goes into the market, then you're gonna see real anger. Because right now, this is affecting the top 10% more than anyone else. Yes, retirement accounts, etc. And yes, it could affect whether you lose your job or not, but you haven't yet lost your job and it hasn't yet affected prices. When it does, then it's gonna be political Armageddon. And so people aren't gonna listen to any panicans or pelicans or anything else, and they're not gonna listen to any talking points if all of a sudden all prices on all their goods skyrocket, way past where they were under Biden. So that catastrophe might be on its way, but that gets to the central hypocrisy here of Trump and the decision that they're trying to force him into. I want to get to that in 1 second. EU is, on the other hand, is maybe negotiating, trying to get to 0%, which I'm actually surprised by, because the rest of the world kind of has us where they want us right now. We can't afford to have the market stumble too much more. We can't afford that to have these tariffs actually hit prices of goods and lose the jobs and lose the businesses. So if they all gang up on us now economically, we're toast. So, I mean, cross your fingers that they don't do that, but Trump has opened us up to disaster if the rest of the world unites against us.
Okay, so look, I partially agree with you, but I think part of the reason why they're not ganging up on us is that we have 330 million people in the United States. It's a massive country with a lot of consumers, and a lot of these smaller countries rely on us to keep their businesses afloat.
No, but let me explain. So it's a good question. So look, if we're taking on a one by one, us versus Estonia, they have no chance. They're gonna have to give in to whatever demand we have. Us versus Mexico, us versus Canada. As long as it's contained, our economic might is massive, not just because of 330 million people, because our GDP per capita is sky high. We spend more than anyone else. It's not close, right? On the other hand, if China and the EU and Japan and South Korea were all, let alone India, BRICS, all those other folks who are not our enemies, who are, China, you could have an economic conversation about whether we're opposed to them. But all these folks, they could easily, there's no war or anything like that. They could easily unite and go, okay, now we're gonna do reciprocal back at them. And if they all do reciprocal back at us, which would be a very logical move, we would be devastated. So like any one of them by themselves, we have leverage and we could use that to bring down their tariffs or anything like that. But China has well over 1.2 billion people. They're 4 times our size. And they used to be poverty stricken several decades ago, but now they have a roaring middle class. So you could easily make deals with them. Europe is pretty much our size. You could easily make deals with them. We are playing with fire here, but a worldwide fire. But so Anna, that gets to the main point, which is, look, I asked this on social media earlier today, and now finally reporters have started asking it too, because it's a logical and obvious question, which is, wait. Are these tariffs meant to stay for a long time and rebuild our manufacturing base? Or are they a negotiating ploy to bring tariffs down and then they're gonna go away soon? So which one is it? And he hasn't answered that question.
You're right.
And it can't be both. You can't say, I did it as a negotiating ploy and I got these amazing new deals, including 0% from some countries, and mission accomplished, so I took the tariffs off, and that's why the tariffs will reignite our manufacturing base. Wait, did you take them off or did you not take them off? Are they short term or are they long term? And he's not clarifying because he wants the best of both worlds. He's just throwing out both talking points.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I think he's gonna actually do, but go ahead.
No, I mean, look, I've said this before, I'm gonna say it again. What he's doing right now with slapping tariffs on every single country and really upping the ante with some of our closest trade partners and allies is ridiculous. However, the thing that frustrates me the most about all of this is that it actually is a good idea to do some targeted tariffs, right? It is a good idea, both for our national security and for the well-being of our country to produce certain things here in the United States, pharmaceutical drugs being one example. The problem is with the way that Trump is handling this, I'm worried that that window for targeted tariffs will just be diminished, will disappear because of what it's doing to the economy, right? Look, it hasn't hit the real economy yet. Of course, it's hit the stock market, but we all know what would happen if this continues, right? These companies are gonna stop investing in their own businesses. They're gonna stop hiring people. They're probably gonna lay a lot of people off. It will definitely, I hate to use this phrase, but it's true, trickle down to ordinary American workers. So I'm very concerned about that. But that's not to say that some targeted tariffs make sense because some things absolutely should be produced here in the United States for our own well-being and national security. Now, if you're denying that these blanket tariffs that Trump has implemented are disastrous, why don't we hear from Russian state media, because they are absolutely celebrating what Trump is doing. So on Russian state media, there's a political scientist by the name of Dmitry Kolokov who said the following, quote, "The price of goods will certainly go up in the United States. The old political and economic global system is practically dead." Sounds pretty celebratory. The host of this state-sponsored Russian news show, Vladimir Solovyov, says the following: "A monument should be erected to Trump. This was a major blow to the system of capitalism. I think he deserves at least a Sutulov medal." And a Sutulov medal is basically not a prestigious medal at all. It's a gag gift. The Daily Beast described it as a worthless award that a master gives his servant. But he went further, saying, quote, "To deliver this kind of blow, well done, old man."
I mean, Ronald Reagan's gotta be spinning in his grave. So here's the Russians celebrating that a Republican president is helping to kill off capitalism. And well done, old man. Now look, you could take that any way you want. You don't have to get into Russia. It's just interesting that they're so positive in Russia that this is disastrous for America, that they're openly celebrating on air. And remember, nothing goes on air without Putin approving it, right? So this is the Russian government rubbing it in our face. Ha ha, your president is helping to kill off your country, and we love it, okay? Meanwhile, Trump constantly, Putin, are you okay, Putin? Okay, I don't know why he does it, but the fact that he does do it is pretty clear. So now look, let me clarify two numbers before I get back to, yes, but what should we do? Number one, the Dow started off at 1,300 down. Now it ended around 400 down. So it recovered a little bit, but again, people are still super worried about how volatile it is, wobbly it is, and the fact that it's still headed down. Number two, I want to go back to Portnoy for a second. Wait, 20 million is 10 to 15% of your net worth? Holy cow, so he's got about $200 million, okay.
You're gonna be aight, you're gonna be aight.
Okay, interesting. And it's amazing that he's willing to,
I mean, 20 million is a lot of money.
Yeah, the back and forth with his purchase of his company and then him getting it back is public, so I don't blame him for sharing it. But it is amazing, right, that they throw around those numbers. All right, now back to important stuff. So guys, which one should it be? Should it be permanent and it helps rebuild manufacturing? Should it be temporary because negotiating deals, et cetera? Now, if it was targeted, it should be permanent, as Anna's saying.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're not targeted, so they're thrown out at all countries and all industries, et cetera. So since that is damaging, I would say our best case scenario is he tries to save face by negotiating a couple of deals. Oh, I made a deal with Israel that already had tariffs at 0%. Oh, I made a deal with EU, and maybe it is a good deal. Then I'll take it and I'm happy, right? And then if he takes all of these off and it got us a couple of negotiated deals for a little bit lower tariffs, it was not the right way to do it, and it still will have significant consequences for the significant downturn, and it might lead to a recession, but at least we'll get something positive out of it and be done with these ridiculous nuclear tariffs, right? So that's what I would prefer, but because he's not smart and strategic enough to do well-placed industry-specific tariffs. He's just not capable of it, right? And so, by the way, if you're pro-tariff, this is terrible news for you, because everyone's going to despise tariffs after this. So good luck doing your strategic tariffs.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. Yes, that's what I'm trying to communicate, right? There are tariffs that make sense. Those tariffs are never going to be done now, right? That's the frustration here. Now, with that in mind, let's hear more from Portnoy, because this hour-long video was incredible. You're gonna get another snippet of it right here.
Even I'm not in the panicking party, all right? I hate this. I hate that I've lost 20 million. I didn't love seeing him on the golf course playing his course championship and being like, I'm a very low handicap. I didn't love that. Like, the stock market is getting crushed. I've lost 20% of my net worth. And you're out on the golf course. Like, in my mind, Donald Trump just cost me 20 million or whatever he did. Maybe don't be on the golf course, because I'm curled up in a ball in bed sweating. So would I care about this if I wasn't rich? Maybe not as much, but I firmly believe If the stock market is down and crashing, the whole economy's, it's all intertwined.
And it is all intertwined. Now, right now, the people you hear whining the most are people who are heavily invested in the stock market. A lot of rich people, a lot of billionaires are worried about what's going on right now, including, by the way, Elon Musk. And we're gonna get to some of the infighting involving Elon Musk in just a moment. But look, this is going to create some really severe cracks in the Trump administration, but also for the Republican Party, because now you have a group of Republican senators who are like, yeah, so that whole thing that we did where Congress ceded power to the executive branch? Yeah, it turns out we don't like that so much. I think that we should get back to a day where Congress made the decision about tariffs. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, tons of Republicans are now peeling off, and there's too many of them for Trump to threaten them one at a time. Just like the trading partners, he took on too much at once. So now Rand Paul's hitting him, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana's hitting him, the guy who's like, that's my ass, right? And that's exactly what he's worried about now, his own ass. So they're all over TV going, I don't know about these tariffs. Now Elon Musk not sure about the tariffs. Bill Ackman not sure about the tariffs, so it's falling apart at the seams. I thought they were never going to break. Interesting. So look, guys, Wang Jun, I think one of our members on tyt.com, has a good line here that I like. He said, "This is the part we call finding out." Okay, so and that's exactly right. Trump thought he's above it, and there's reports from the inside saying that he thinks he's not listening to anybody anymore, and he thinks that his advisors were the problem first time around. Brother, they were the reason that you managed to have an interesting balance in the economy. Now, without those professionals' advice, he's just doing dumb stuff and finding out. And so, but the bottom line on the overall panic is I'm absolutely positive that these tariffs will not be around, okay? So, that's a strong statement. There's a lot of folks, especially on the right wing, who say, no way, they're gonna be around forever and ever, and it's gonna rebuild manufacturing, and 10 years from now, we're gonna thank Donald Trump for all these wonderful tariffs that he brought here and then remained. They're not gonna remain. So the very, very, very longest they'll last is right after the tax cuts. Then you'll never hear of them again. Oh, I did a deal with Iceland and the place with the penguins, and I'm such a great negotiator. We don't need them anymore.
I know,
and then you'll never hear them.
But how many months is that gonna take? And by then, there's going to be a lot of damage in the real economy, not just the stock market.
So that's a great question, because you're right. Phase 2 is about to hit where the prices are actually gonna go up. Then there's gonna be massive panic, right? So then that's the real question. Can they sneak in the tax cuts before they take away the tariffs? Because remember, they're saying, oh, $5.5 trillion in tax cuts, don't worry about it, tariffs are gonna raise $6 trillion. So now if they get rid of the tariffs, they can't say the tariffs are gonna raise $6 trillion. So they need to keep the tariffs. That's why today, the unspoken story, and by the way, guys, eyes on the prize, and we need to do this, we do it every day, but we need to double down, etc. They're trying to pass the budget right now. Nobody's talking about the budget.
I know, yep.
Everybody's talking about this, and you know what's all the Republicans are saying? Exactly what we told you here on the Young Turks. They're all saying, well, especially with the markets being volatile like this, we really need to give American companies another round of tax cuts and deregulation to make sure that they're going to be stable and okay. So that's the plan all along. The minute they get those, the tariffs are gone. The tariffs aren't the problem. That in the long run, the tax cuts are.
Well, we're not quite done with the topic of Trump's tariffs. So when we come back, we're going to dive right into Bill Ackman making some pretty strong accusations against Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Is there any truth behind them? We'll see, and we'll be right back.
Has just been, not good.
Back on TYT, let's go to Super Chat first. John Mariana says, Trump saying we're good to our friends would be hilarious if it weren't so disingenuous. Let's ask Zelensky if he agrees with Trump on this point. Yeah, of course, by our friends, he means our only friend, Israel. And not because they're the only ones who are willing to be our friend, it's because we're the Well, they're the only ones who are willing to be friends with. All right, on YouTube membership, John Camille says, hi everyone. I just finished preaching progressive ideas and positions on a Fox live chat. You should too, be a voice.
No, we can't talk to conservatives. It's a big no. Don't do it, I can't believe it. You're actually a Trump supporter now, congratulations, welcome to MAGA.
Yeah, by the way, John, in all seriousness, I love that you're doing that.
Yes.
And so go interact with everybody, including the right wing, including the Fox News viewers. But remember, we criticize the powerful, we criticize systems and how they're rigged, etc. But when you're talking to others, win them over to your side. If you yell at them, they put up a wall and they never listen to you. Instead say, hey, how is this helping you? If prices go up, isn't this worse than under Biden? You know, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of ways where you go, hey, is this what we call Social Security offices for? It doesn't make sense. So, and you don't have to get everybody to agree with you. Just plant the seed of a lot of folks who actually do agree with you on those issues. You're not trying to trick anyone. You're trying to point out, this doesn't help you, brothers and sisters. This doesn't help you at all. Project for Progress says, Cenk and Anna, please help me. My aunt's in the bubble. She thinks Carville is an expert, Pelosi's the OG, and all Trump voters are stupid. I'm a conspiracist when I say mainstream media lies, etc. It's eating my soul. Okay, but so here's the thing, I can't help you. Look, whenever you're talking to anyone who is in a certain orthodoxy, or really anyone, period, right? Whether they're on the right, they're on the left, or they're in the MSNBC bubble, right? Like, don't yell at them, okay? And don't be confrontational. So, like, I get confrontational with radicals on whichever side of the spectrum because I'm forced into it, because they say you're not allowed to disagree, and you have to hate the other side and you should never talk to the other side. It's my job as a host to say, no, I have a different strategy and a better way to handle this. For you in your personal life, or if you're talking to people online, etc., including for people on our own side, Democrats who are in a bubble that's hard to get out of, just start talking to them in a polite way. Say, hey, how about this? Do you agree on that? Find common ground first, find common ground, and then say, hey, maybe it might help if we, brought over some of those independent voters that voted for Trump. I bet you they agree with you on a lot of the complaints that you have, et cetera, right? So, look, our media, as in some version of left-wing media, MSNBC and folks online, they created another bubble. And the bubble is everyone on the right is monsters and we should never talk to them, and all we should do is yell at them. So and what's happening, interestingly, is normally radicals are young people, right, on both sides. And yeah, there's definitely some of that. But now there's a ton of older people who became radicalized by MSNBC. But they're not radical on ideology, they're radical on attitude and partisanship. And so even if you criticize Democrats to make them better, they get super mad at you. But we have to have the same attitude towards them, which is winning them back slowly and through logic and rationale and talking to them. All right, we'll be right back.
Has just been, not good.
Shohei Ohtani.
Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, and Connie Ferrari. What an awesome name. Rev that engine up, yeah. Goes perfectly with Anna's dress today. So Connie, thank you for upgrading through the join button. You're awesome for doing that. We really appreciate you. I'm gonna read one comment from TYT.com member, Turkish Taffy. He wrote in, looks like the US will be Trump's 7th bankruptcy.
Oof. Don't say it. Don't say it, Turkish Taffy.
Yeah, but right now, that's no Laffy Taffy. That's where we're headed right now. Remember, he put 8 trillion on the debt last time, and now he set it for even bigger numbers. All right, Anna.
All right, well, we've got a lot more to get to when it comes to Donald Trump's tariffs and how it's ripping his group of supporters apart. Let's get into it.
More than 160 million Americans, Mr. Secretary, as you know, are invested in the market. Many of them have spent their lives saving for their retirement. What is your message to Americans who want to retire right now and who've just seen their lifetime savings drop significantly?
A very tough question, and we're gonna get back to what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had to say in response to that question in just a bit, so hold on tight for that. But first, we absolutely need to dive into this fire-hot feud between billionaire Trump donor Bill Ackman and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, who is now being accused by Ackman of not being an honest player. So, as Ackman spent his weekend pleading with Trump to essentially do a 90-day pause on his tariffs in order to, create some space for trade negotiations, he also jumped into this interesting accusation against Howard Lutnick, who's been making his rounds on cable television in defense of Donald Trump's tariffs policy. He says, "I just figured out why Howard Lutnick is indifferent to the stock market and the economy crashing. He and Cantor are long bonds. He profits when our economy implodes. It's a bad idea to pick a Secretary of Commerce whose firm is levered long fixed income. It's an irreconcilable conflict of interest." Now, Ackman is, of course, talking about Cantor Fitzgerald, which is the financial firm that Howard Lutnick led for 35 years prior to joining the Trump administration. And he's basically just accusing him of being so heavily invested in bonds that, the stock market blowing up as a result of Trump's tariff policies is actually a good thing for those who are heavily invested in bonds. But I don't know how much truth there is behind that.
There is a lot of truth behind that.
Oh, is there? Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So look, first of all, I got no love for anybody on either side here. Lutnick's been running Cantor Fitzgerald, a big Wall Street firm, for 35 years. Bill Ackman's a really despicable billionaire who bullies people on the issue of Israel and on, right? And they both support Trump. So, okay, but we don't really much care about the personalities to begin with. On this show, we actually focus on facts and what's right and not right. So who's right between these two? In terms of the tariffs, I mean, it physically bothers me to say it, but Bill Ackman is right? On the facts of what tariffs do, at least these particular tariffs, okay? And so on the issue of will Howard Lutnick's firm profit from these tariffs? Yes. Are they among the few that will? Yes, because long in Wall Street speak means that you're betting in that direction. Short means you're betting against it, right? So if you're long on what Cantor Fitzgerald's long on bonds, when the markets go down, bonds go up because people take their money out of the markets, which is a little bit riskier, and they put it into something safer, bonds, so the value of bonds go up. So if his firm was heavy into bonds, long on bonds, then they're gonna make out like bandits. Now, this is a little bit of speculation on my part, but I didn't know that until Ackman pointed it out. And I did wonder, Lutnick, I swear to you, you take it at face, for whatever it's worth, because I didn't even say it on air before. But I was like, a lot of them look uncomfortable. Bessent looks uncomfortable.
He does. Bessent does.
Tons of their, they go on air and they're like, the tariffs are really good for the economy, because they know it's not. They know they're lying. It's super embarrassing, etc. But the one guy who always seemed so happy, and maybe it's for other reasons, but was Lutnick. Lutnick's like, every picture is like, and you can see it for yourself. Every video, every picture is like, we're doing the tariffs. It's great. And I'm like, really? You're that excited as the market is crashing, etc.? And this would explain why he's excited. Again, I can't say for sure that that's what Scott Lutnick jazzed up, but it is true that that is where his financial incentive is.
So Cenk, you beat me to it because I was gonna ask, well, I mean, Lutnick's not the only Trump administration official who's making his rounds defending what Trump is doing with the tariffs. Like, what about Scott Bessent? But you make an excellent point about how uncomfortable other administration officials appear to be as they're defending Trump's tariffs. So, by the way, prior to joining the Trump administration, there's evidence, he's on the record. Scott Bessent said that tariffs are bad, they cause inflation. Now it's an entirely different, storyline that we're hearing from Bessent. But what you just said, Cenk, reminded me of the interview that Bessent recently had with Tucker Carlson. Now, Bessent, of course, is the Treasury Secretary. And just pay close attention to this video and how he looks like he's in physical pain as he's talking about something that he typically would not want to talk about. Let's watch.
If I were to say, was there any good outcome from COVID? It woke the world up to these supply chain problems. So economic security is national security. President Trump and I have talked about that a lot. So this is a national security issue that we're seeing here, but it's also an economic security issue. And it's to, I don't want to say redistribute, but it is to give working Americans real wage gains and enhance their lives.
I don't want to say redistribute. Like, that was so good. Let's just distill that moment. Let's go to the last video here, B5.
It's to, I don't want to say redistribute.
That's so good.
Yeah, so Besson's got a couple problems. One, he's a giant Wall Street banker, so he doesn't want to redistribute to the average working guy. So he's like, oh, like it makes him physically ill to think of that. Okay, but in this case, the bigger problem is that's not gonna do that anyway. If it was gonna do that, then I'd be happy, right? But so he knows that these tariffs aren't gonna work in any way, shape, or form. He's too smart not to know that, right? So look, he's deeply uncomfortable. Here, we'll throw this on the record. Scott Bessent, not long for this administration. It's April 7th today. Let's see how long he lasts. Okay.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so he's too rational for this, and it's obvious that it's making him deeply uncomfortable. So, we could disagree with him on other policies, but it's obvious that he didn't sign up for this. And that's the problem with people that go into the Trump administration or that support him, like Bill Ackman, right? Or maybe even Elon Musk, as we're gonna get to a little bit later in the show. So they never realize how irrational is. So they always assume like, yeah, but he's got to have some strategy behind the scenes. I mean, he won the presidency twice. He's got to be a genius. It's got to be, I mean, not a genius, strategic in a way that I can't see from the outside. They get inside and they're like, whoa, it's way worse than from the outside. I thought it was gonna be better. The guy never does any homework and has no rational strategy, has no idea what he's talking about. So professionals like Bessent are gonna be the first to go. Okay, so now, one seemingly random thing that gets to two of the themes here though. Tucker Carlson today randomly, or it seemed random to me, but I get why he's doing it, said, hey, we better not attack Iran right now. We're in this tariff mess, and this would be the very worst time to attack them, which made me go, wait, does he know something I don't know? Did Netanyahu go to the White House, not on tariffs mainly, but to get America to attack Iran? Because Tucker has way more inside information than we do on this. So, whoa, watch out, okay? But notice, here's Ackman breaking against Trump for the tariffs. There's Tucker Carlson warning Trump, you better not attack Iran. There is a ton of disagreement here in right-wing circles.
Now, I want to get to what I promised. How exactly did that question about retirement get answered? So let's get to that video. Let's look at video 3.
What is your message to Americans who want to retire right now and who've just seen their lifetime savings drop significantly?
Well, Kristen, I think that's a false narrative. Americans who want to retire right now, the Americans who have put away for years in their savings accounts, I think they don't look at the day-to-day fluctuations of what's happening. And in fact, most Americans don't have everything in the market. Most Americans in a 401k have what's called a 60-40 account. That is 60 of 40 accounts. They are down 5 or 6% on the year. People have a long-term view. They have a program. That the reason the stock market is considered a good investment is because it's a long-term investment. If you look day to day, week to week, it's very risky. Over the long term, it's a good investment.
I'm gonna leave Cenk to directly respond to what Bessent said in that video, but I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to say, this is why Social Security is lit, because it is not tied to the risk of the stock market, okay? It is money that you can look forward to getting in your retirement years. You've paid into the system, and it's just a fixed amount that you are entitled to, and it has nothing to do with the stock market. We must protect Social Security at any and all costs. Cenk, take it away.
Yeah, Dave Portnoy actually made a good point about this particular comment by Bessent. He's like, yeah, you're saying that people who are about to retire aren't gonna panic over this huge drop in the stock market and hence their holdings. He's like, brother, if you're as wealthy as Besant is, you might not panic. And by the way, or Portnoy, right? And he says it, and he's very frank about it. Said, I lost 20 million, that's 10 to 15% of my wealth. I'm okay overall, right? I hate it, but I'm okay overall. He's like, the real problem is people who are about to retire, and they're not gonna be okay overall. And so, if you think in your la-la land that they're gonna look at that, oh, I have a long-term view on it because I'm a professional investor, and I know that that's gonna stay there for a year or 2 years, and how are we doing over the market indexes over the 5-year period? They're not, no. Any rational person is gonna see their 401k or their pensions or whatever it might be plummeting and justifiably worry.
Right.
No normal human being wouldn't do that. So their lies are becoming absurd.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I can see the pressure really starting to accumulate against the Trump administration on these tariffs. We'll see how it goes. But for now, we got to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about more turmoil among those closest to Trump, including Elon Musk and Peter Navarro. Ooh, some jabs, epic jabs over the weekend. We'll tell you who's throwing the jabs and who is right in this scenario. We'll be right back.
Let's go to Super Chat again. James Paul writes in, Cenk, please don't listen to the hate. You're the only person on the left that I can send clips to my mom, and you're slowly curing her Fox News brain. Wow. All right, that's awesome. And thank your mom for me for having an open mind and actually watching and making her own decisions.
Can I jump in? I have learned the hard way, but I've learned that most people are actually reasonable people who are willing to listen to your arguments if there is a mutual respect. If you treat them like they're trash and you're coming into it judging them, trying to make them feel bad for their political decisions, they're not gonna listen to you.
Yeah, so look, first of all, this doesn't help us, right? These days, you're 10,000 times better off on YouTube just screaming. And it's not like I can't scream, I know how to scream, right? And so, and the algorithm loves that and greatly rewards it, right? But we're knowingly making the decision not to do that anyway, because we would rather actually persuade people, win them over to our side, win elections, pass bills, so that we could actually help you in your life. So we're purposely choosing a strategy that is more likely to work at our own expense. By the way, if you want to help out, easy way to do that is just subscribe to the channel. So that's free. You want to join as a member, we love you for it, that'd be amazing. But just subscribe, hit the, ring the bell, so you can keep up with us. All right, try to relax your, writes in. Find out a few days ago that the biggest importers of US are actually China. I'm pretty damn sure most furniture and products within the White House are from China. Is Trump gonna throw all that away? Also, he doesn't have backup plan on building industries. He doesn't have any plan on building industries. He just thought that the tariffs would magically do it. Even if apparently they were around for only a little bit and then you take them away. Of course, none of that makes sense. Keish writes in on YouTube member section, I'm a small business owner, I just got my first contract from the government. The contract price shot up from 27,000 to 48,000 just because of the tariffs. This is hurting the government itself. So they have to pay more in price, we all have to pay more. John Camille wrote in, TYT is right, find common ground. A good way to do that is to forget the personalities and concentrate on the ethics and morality of which all sides are beholden. Love that, John, there you go, totally agree. And be principled, whether it applies to Democrats or Republicans. You'll gain a lot more credibility that way. On Twitch, Scuff Meta makes a good point. We've been liberated from our money. Welcome to Liberation Day, everybody. Winston 121880 says the tariffs are designed to crater the economy so Trump and his billionaire buddies can buy everything in the US for pennies on the dollar. I actually don't think that that's the case in this particular case. They will, don't get me wrong, when it craters, they will buy low and sell high. Warren Buffett's already said it, but he's not part of that evil cabal. He's just doing what's rational. I think that Trump was supposed to do some tariffs to pass the tax cuts. But he didn't just do a little bit of tariffs because he's a maniac. He did nuclear level tariffs. And so the donor class, the billionaires, the stock market guys, the Wall Street guys, they are not happy with it. This is not a secret plan. They were like, whoa, what the hell did you do that for? You're supposed to do light tariffs. So as a trick, then we get our tax cuts. and then you get rid of the tariffs. That's the plan.
I love how they're potentially like destroying the economy and leading to a situation where workers might lose their jobs, and on top of that, cutting the taxes. Like they were gonna cut the taxes anyway. Just do what you're gonna do with the taxes, okay? No one's gonna stop you. No one even wants to stop them. It's incredibly frustrating.
Yeah, we'll be back. Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, but also Megan Murphy. Megan just joined by hitting the join button. You're awesome. But like I said during the break, hitting the subscribe button for free is also super helpful if you're not a subscriber to the channel, and we appreciate it. And Eddie Strange, thanks for joining on TYT.com. You're awesome. Casper.
We got to talk about this feud between Elon Musk and Peter Navarro.
Elon Musk, who the president has described as a genius repeatedly, basically came out over the weekend and said that he at least implied two things. One, that he's not in favor of these tariff program the way it's structured currently, suggesting he wants it, he wants 0-0 across the board. But he also took a shot at you and took a shot at you personally. Have you spoken to him?
Elon Musk and Trump advisor Peter Navarro are at war over Trump's tariffs. Let's see what Navarro has to say about it in this interview on CNBC.
When it comes to tariffs and trade, we all understand in the White House, and the American people understand, that Elon's a car manufacturer. But he's not a car manufacturer, he's a car assembler.
He's a car assembler. Cenk, those are fighting words.
Shots fired. Okay, here we are. Yet another right wing on right wing crime. And I love it. And part of the reason I love it, guys, look, this applies more to the media hosts like Portnoy and Rogan, et cetera, that are rebelling against Trump on a number of different issues. It's not so much like, internal fighting, and that means that it'll naturally be a good thing. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's not for us or for the country. But what is important is people are beginning to say, I'm not just gonna say whatever Trump says, because if it hurts my interest, I don't work for Fox News. I don't work for Trump. I'm just not gonna say it. And that has gone all the way to Elon Musk, who's firing shots at Trump through Navarro. He's not trying to hit Navarro, he's trying to hit Trump through Navarro.
That's exactly right. Everyone is afraid to attack Trump directly. So instead they're kind of attacking each other. But it's just it's a proxy war. There's a proxy war going on right now, okay?
100%.
Within the Trump administration, with Trump allies. So look, you can see why Elon Musk would be against the tariffs that Donald Trump is pursuing here. Tesla stock fell 10% by Friday, erasing billions in Elon Musk's wealth. Markets closed on Friday with the week marking the worst trading week in 5 years. And stocks didn't really rebound today. The Dow opened at a 1,300 point drop, but closed at 400 points down. Now, clearly Elon is upset, make no mistake about it. And he took jabs against Peter Navarro over the weekend. I wanna give you a few examples. So in response to a clip featuring Navarro's passionate defense of Donald Trump's tariffs on CNN, Elon Musk wrote, a PhD in econ from Harvard is a bad thing. Peter Navarro has a PhD from Harvard in economics. He says it's not a good thing. Results in the ego/brains being bigger than one problem. I don't know what he meant in that last line, but nonetheless, he's basically taking jabs at Peter Navarro's Harvard education, okay? He also wrote in response to someone arguing that Peter Navarro is correct in his analysis, he ain't built crap. I'll use the word that I'm allowed to use on the show. And during an interview with Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini, this is on Saturday, Musk made clear what he would like to happen in regard to tariffs between the United States and Europe. Take a look.
I'm hopeful that there can be a very close relationship with America and Europe. And I'm hopeful, for example, with the tariffs, that at the end of the day, I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America. And that would be that's what I hope occurs. And also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
Now, look, in regard to Europe, we're not talking about exploited labor, right? Europe is not China or Vietnam or all these other countries where you can take advantage of super, super cheap labor. So I'm definitely way more open to lifting these tariffs against our European allies as opposed to some of the other countries where our corporations take advantage of and exploit cheap labor to the detriment of American workers. I think in those areas, some targeted tariffs might make sense. But clearly what you just heard from Elon Musk is very different from what you will hear from Peter Navarro, who, make no mistake about it, Peter Navarro isn't just talking the talk. He is a tariffs evangelist and has been for a long time. He really does believe in tariffs.
Yeah, this whole attacking each other's elite schools is hilarious. Okay. Oh, you went to Harvard. Harvard's no good. I went to what? No, what? Oh, if I went to what, it must be right.
Yeah, it's insufferable. All of this.
Yeah, can't stand it. Okay, anyways, so now, first of all, we're gonna put you in a tough situation. We got you in a live chat poll, okay, where you gotta ask, where we're asking you who's right, Peter Navarro or Elon Musk. Peter Navarro, by the way, before you vote, just bias you a little bit more, is one of the guys who came up with the fake elector scheme to rob us of our democracy last time around. So lots of loathing in all directions here. Okay, first let me start with what Navarro's right about. Elon is a car assembler, it's true. He didn't invent Tesla. Let me see what we got. I hate to do that to you. Elon winning in a poll 71-29. Okay, watch the show live Monday through Friday, be part of it. Starts at 6 o'clock Eastern every day. All right, so he mainly assembles cars, and yes, they get the parts from lots of other places in the world, Mexico, Canada for some of the essentials, and also Japan and China. So so is it true that Elon has a financial incentive here to be against these tariffs? Yes. Has he lost about $30 billion in value in his companies since the tariffs hit? Yes. Will that create a bias or a perspective for him? Yes. So Navarro's right about all those things. Now, turn to Elon. Yes, but on the substance, who's right? Elon is, in my opinion, clearly right. So if we can get a 0% rate with European Union and we don't charge each other tariffs, I can't see the harm in that at all. That sounds like a great outcome. Like if that's all Trump had done, I would actually give him a lot of credit for it. And remember, he hasn't landed that bird. It hasn't happened yet. We don't even know if the EU is actually going to go for it. If I'm being honest, they would be better off joining China and creating enormous pressure on us right now and get a better deal for themselves. But hey, if they do the 0%, I'll take it. These tariffs are never going to last anyway. It just causes way too much damage. So Elon is right, you might as well get some deals out of it and then get the hell out of Dodge. But Navarro's to be fair to Navarro, he's a true believer. He really believes these maniacal things that are not going to happen at all. Like that the tariffs are gonna stay around. We're both gonna get a great deal from European Union, but we're not going to take away the tariffs and they're gonna be permanent and rebuild our manufacturing base. No, they're not.
So in regard to zero tariffs between the United States and the EU, Navarro did weigh in on that. So why don't we hear what he had to say? And I'm curious what your response is, Cenk.
Do you expect deals to be announced this week with the president?
I expect the market to quickly find a bottom. I expect
without any deals from the president, or without any. Is it possible he says let's do a 30-day hiatus on some of this, and let's talk it over with all of our trading partners to see if we can get somewhere before we do it? Is that possible?
All right, hang on. Again, let me finish these thoughts here. I mean, first of all, it's the president's decision. Second of all, I've told you that the most important thing is for countries to come to us not offering zero tariffs, which is disingenuous because it won't get us anything, particularly with countries like Vietnam. What they have to do is tell us they're going to drop all their non-tariff cheating. And as you said, that takes a little time here, okay? We got a $1.2 trillion deficit.
in some cases, the deficit kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, but
yeah, so let me jump in on a couple of things. First of all, now we're asking them not only to drop their tariffs, but all their non-tariff policies as well. Well, what kind of moving the goalpost is this, right? So look, again, if you wanted to say, hey, there's a particular trading policy that Vietnam and China have, and you see how it affects us through taxes or whatever else, and or devaluing of their currency, let's have a strategic strike against that. I'm all in, because I think they do too much of that playing around stuff. But if you impose these massive tariffs on them and then hope that they're just gonna wipe away everything else, when they could easily just get together and band against us, as basically China's led the way on right now, they can crush our markets, they can crush, and our prices skyrocket, and we'll be in bigger pain than the rest of the world. So it's all fantasy land stuff from Navarro. That's not gonna happen. What I'm hoping is, honestly, what Elon's hoping for too, which is some sort of face-saving maneuver where Trump comes out and goes, well, yeah, we got Vietnam to move on bubblegum. And we got China to move on your baseball caps, the MAGA hats we're buying. And so I win, right? And then all the tariffs are gone. And we didn't get rid of their tariffs and all the other non-tariffs and stuff. That's the best possible scenario at this point, because we're not gonna win this war. This is a maniacal war where we nuked everyone else in the world at the same time. They're gonna nuke us back, and we're gonna be in a lot. This is just the beginning. If they all nuke us back with the same amount of tariffs we put on them, we're gonna be hurt bad, dog. And one clarification from last week, I intimated that Elon's companies would be better off than GM, Stellantis, and some other manufacturers here in America. So he might not hate these tariffs as much as they do, because it might give them a slight competitive advantage.
Wrong again, Bob.
Yeah, on that one, it looks like, although those facts are true, that is not what's happened. What's happened is that Tesla has been hurt very badly, and Elon is not happy about these tariffs. He's very, very unhappy, and I wanted to make sure to clarify that for you guys so you know.
And shockingly, the head of the United Auto Workers, Shawn Fain, who of course is representing the workers for the major American, car companies, is like defending Trump's tariffs. So I want to actually get to that story next. So let's do it.
Tonight, car companies are responding to the president's tariffs. Stellantis, which makes Jeep and Chrysler, laid off 900 people at 5 different plants in Michigan and Indiana. As the company says, those layoffs are temporary but necessary because it's pausing production at 2 of its assembly plants in Canada and Mexico. Mr. Fain, you have praised the auto tariffs here, 25% that went into effect last night. What's your response to what Stellantis did today?
Now look, we've been covering so many billionaires who are absolutely infuriated against Donald Trump due to his tariffs policy. But on the flip side, United Auto Workers President Shawn Fain has actually defended Trump to some extent, which is surprising. Now we're gonna hear the rest of his answer to Caitlin Collins right now. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
The administration's been very clear that these tariffs are coming. They backed off twice now, and now that it's time to be implemented, Ford, obviously has been proactive. They dropped the price of vehicles. They're extending discounts to consumers. GM announced they're going to bring some work back. And meanwhile, Stellantis, who's had several months to prepare, announces that they're going to use employees as collateral damage. It's more of the same. There is excess capacity all over this country right now. And Stellantis has excess capacity right in Warren, Michigan, where they're laying people off again. They could move Ram truck production there in very short order, be producing Ram trucks. I'm here in Chattanooga, Tennessee right now at Volkswagen. Volkswagen produces 75% of their vehicles in Mexico. And there's excess capacity right here at this plant. So Lordstown, Ohio, Lordstown Assembly Plant. I mean, there's plenty of capacity in this country.
And to be fair, I've heard that argument made by a lot of different people who are defending Donald Trump's auto tariffs policies, right? So specifically the tariffs he wants to implement on vehicles that are being imported to the United States. They argue, look, we still have factories that have practically been abandoned as a result of offshoring these auto manufacturing jobs. We can take those factories, obviously update them, bring them back online, and have these vehicles manufactured here in the United States. And also understand the interests at play here. Obviously, Sean Fain is representing the best interests of workers in the auto industry. And so some of these tariffs he sees as potentially good for the auto industry, for workers within the auto industry.
So if you don't follow politics closely, you might be thinking Sean Fain, was he the guy who spoke at the Republican convention?
It's the other Sean that did that.
Right, so that's Sean O'Brien, who was head of the Teamsters, gave a fire-breathing progressive speech at the RNC, which was really interesting, and helped to get a more progressive labor secretary. So well played, and he took a lot of heat for it, and Sean Fain was not in that camp. Sean Fain, representing UAW, was in the camp of rah-rah Democrats and Trump is terrible. Now I agree with him that Trump is terrible. I didn't agree with him as much on rah-rah Democrats, but that's the position he's been taking. That's why this is more surprising that he's coming out and saying rah-rah Trump on this. Now, at the same time, I totally get it for the same reasons I understand that Sean O'Brien reached out, which is you got to do right for your workers, and that's your only priority. They're not Democrats. They don't represent the country. They don't represent a state. They represent their unions, and those unions have specific interests. Now, as it turns out, my honest assessment is that Sean O'Brien played it better than Sean Fain because he got in, he helped to influence decisions, and Sean Fain is agreeing with Trump at his nadir, at it when he's on fire, right? And so I don't think that it's made much of an impact, and I still get it. He thinks it's better for his union overall, but this is like the worst time to agree with Donald Trump. And these tariffs aren't gonna last, and he's gonna be disappointed. So at the end of the day, he'll probably get left holding the bag. It'll seem like he supported Trump on tariffs that didn't work. And not only will that set him back a little bit, it's not that important, his particular political leverage to the rest of us, but also if you care about doing tariffs right, as Anna and I have been talking about over the last couple of weeks, this will hurt that cause. So that's why, unfortunately, this was not a great time to back a Trump play.
So look, in regard to the obvious chaos that we're seeing right now in the stock market and the very inevitable issue of inflation that will follow, Fain basically says that, the tariffs could be at least partially absorbed by corporations. We'll see. I mean, look, they're gonna wanna sell products, so they might eat some portion of the costs associated with these higher tariffs. So we have to wait and see if these tariffs remain in place. I think in regard to the auto tariffs, that's probably the area where Trump is the most serious. I could be wrong, but that's my read of it. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not impossible that he would get rid of most of the tariffs, but keep a couple. So that again is, goes towards Sean Fain's strategy being right if it goes in that direction. But guys, just real quick clarity on prices and how things work. So if you have 30% tariff on something, but the margin of that product is only 15%, the company cannot eat the whole 30% tariff because then they'll be losing 15% instead of making 15%. Just giving you that as one example. Oftentimes their margins are higher than that. Is a corporation going to want to move most of the costs onto you? Yes. In fact, they'll move as much as the cost onto you as you could possibly afford.
Exactly, yeah.
And when you get to a breaking point and they think you're gonna go to another company or not buy at all, that's when they'll ease up a little bit. But that means you'll eat most of the tariffs and they'll eat a little bit of them. But they're never gonna get to a point where it completely erases their profit margin because then they wouldn't do it.
Of course. Now, what does Sean Fain have to say about that? Let's take a look.
Tariffs aren't the solution to everything. Tariffs are a tool in the toolbox. But ultimately, we got to fix the broken trade system. And that's the part, unfortunately, when we hear all these talking heads talk about the crisis with the stock market dropping, where was the cry out of the crisis when millions of jobs were leaving this country for the last 20 or 30 years? The real problem isn't these tariffs. The real problem here is corporate greed. I mean, let's talk about the auto industry from 2020 to 2023 when they jacked up the price of vehicles 35%. It wasn't because wages went up. It wasn't because of tariffs. People were manipulating and price gouging consumer because of a pandemic that was in place. So, it's a choice. I've heard this crying all day about the stock market. A majority of Americans don't own stock. Working class people, 60% don't have any retirement savings. That's the crisis in this country. That's what we need to be talking about. And how do we make the trade laws and make these things fairer and bring work back that puts people to work where they can have a decent quality of life.
See, look, this is the reason why I really value the fact that Sean Fain was willing to go out there and say the things that he's saying, because that clip that we just showed you, he's absolutely right. And it's amazing how right now there's like a 24-hour news cycle on like, oh my God, the stock market. But as Americans, we're losing everything as a result of corporations moving jobs over to other countries in order to exploit cheap labor. No, I mean, yes, there were some people on the left specifically who were complaining about that. But now those folks are so wrapped up in their hatred of Donald Trump that they forgot about how, outsourcing American jobs has been absolutely disastrous for American workers, for American labor. And that's why I'm not as black and white on this issue of tariffs. And the way it's being covered right now in the media, it's very much black or white. It's either good or bad. It depends. The nuance matters, right?
Yeah.
So the main reason why I'm frustrated with Trump is this like blanket tariffs policy and this like weird ham-handed way that he's implementing or imposing these tariffs is doing away with whatever goodwill exists among Americans in regard to targeted tariffs that actually do look out for American workers.
Yeah, so look, there's tons of nuance here in that, I think some targeted tariffs could work mainly in fighting back against tariffs that were laid against us that were not reciprocal. Do I think most of our jobs, manufacturing jobs, are going to be outsourced inevitably? I do. Does that mean that we should be okay with all the rules that are in these trade agreements set by corporations? No, because corporations write these agreements and they write it for their benefit, not your benefit. But the number one point that I would make is that we live under corporate rule. That's our number one problem. These corporations have bought off almost all of our politicians. They rig not just one rule or two rules, they rig all of the rules to their advantage. And now they're about to lower their taxes they went from 35 to 21%. Last time around, the less they pay, the more we pay. And now Trump is saying he wants to bring it down all the way to 15%, deregulate more, take away fraud charges, etc., which all strengthens corporate rule and is the opposite of populism. And last point on this overall is, look, while we do all these nuances that's important about tariffs, the way Trump did it had no nuance.
Right.
And since he nuked everyone, tariffs wind up looking terrible overall, and it set back everyone. And for Sean Fain and Sean O'Brien, I love that there's a new, more aggressive union leadership out there.
Definitely.
And that is not just listening to the parties, and that it's making their independent decisions, right or wrong, in any given circumstance, to fight for their workers and getting the word out. Both of them are about how corporations have rigged all the rules and set this economy to their advantage and against us. That's the core of the issue, and that's the thing we all should be united around.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back for the second hour of the show, we're going to jump right into Donald Trump's press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu. There was a lot discussed there. Not only did they discuss tariffs, but they also talked a little bit about potential war with Iran. We'll be right back.
Damn it, they failed us. And if you're not angry about that, Michael, and any of you out there, then you're damn wrong, because you should be angry. Young Turks.
It was genuine. He was mad. Cenk Uygur, known online as one of the Young Turks, isn't afraid to throw some punches.
3, 2, 1, fade up.
Cenk the Turk Uygur.
What kind of TV station is this? The whole point is for me to yell and scream and tell you what I think.
It was right out of like Wayne's World.
This guy on this little rinky-dink website is speaking truth to power.
We've been averaging 600,000 views a day, beating most of the cable shows in America.
We're the largest online news show in the world.
We're celebrating our 1 billionth view.
Television, we're coming.
More politics ahead with Cenk Uygur.
He knew that the MSNBC opportunity was an experiment.
And fill-in hosts beat CNN and headline news combined. At some point, they want to give me a show.
Every single year, that comes out of our paycheck. We put it in, and you're saying we were suckers.
When you, as a host, tells someone you're interviewing to shut up, that's going to raise a red flag.
That guy needed a tall glass of shut up juice.
President Obama's doing the wrong thing, I'm not going to tell you that he's doing the right thing so I can, quote, support him.
He says to me, "You won't believe the meeting that I just had."
The head of MSNBC talked to me.
They want him off the air.
Cenk took an incredible risk.
We're supposed to challenge the government. That's the role of the media.
The Democrats and the Republicans are here to screw you. And who on the air is saying it?
I wouldn't have done what he did.
That if I'm going to be a talk show host, I should be the biggest talk show host in the country. I don't think anyone else does it better. I don't think anyone's even close.
Before you know it, I'll be back on your TV doing a national show. I guarantee it.
Magic. It's showtime. And say 45 minutes. I'm hosting today. Now I know what you're thinking, JR, your face is already perfect, but you know what? I still need to apply some makeup. I went through this process, right? A few years ago, when I realized that I was gonna have to wear makeup on the show. I had to go through like finding out what my undertones were. You guys know what those are? I got my MAC Cosmetics. It says SPF 15 foundation, broad spectrum. But apparently what I have is red undertones, and I think pores are not supposed to be seen. I need all these things to be confirmed for me. These sponge things don't work for me. You gotta use your hands. This I did. That's how the magic really happens. So we're gonna go through a tutorial how to make the magic happen from beautiful to beautifuler. Let's go. I've already been moisturized. That's the first thing. But moisturization already happened. We go raw. All hands. Pick up. Couple streaks. This is the guy way of putting on makeup. We got dots. There's some shiny points that generally happen. First of all, here we go. You dust here. I'm putting way too much, but you dust. Oh, get the excess off. You don't want chunky powder. There's like a T-zone, I think, right? Mine is a double T-zone. Because I went middle and another cross. Make sure your nose isn't all shiny. People get on you for it. They'll say, that's not a good point you made on there, JR. Your nose is shiny. You guys are picky like that sometimes. I think that's about it, fellas and ladies. See you guys next time. Bitsies.
I fully expect a daily proctology exam.
That's what I do.
Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. And Blair wrote in on TYT.com with a point I just want to make real quick. He said, I'm worried corporations will raise prices due to tariffs and then never lower them again. Oh.
You should be worried because
I'm worried about that too.
That's what they do.
That's what they do. So yeah, once the price increases come, this is going to be a whole different level of disaster.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
All right.
Okay, let's just get off the tariffs for a little bit, okay? Let's find some zen in boots on the ground in Gaza.
Mr. President, given what you've said about Gaza, did the US send troops to help secure the security vacuum?
As far as Gaza is concerned, we'll do what is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that.
It's been made very clear to the president that the United States needs to be involved in this rebuilding effort to ensure stability in the region for all people. But that does not mean boots on the ground in Gaza. It does not mean American taxpayers will be funding this effort.
He did not rule out American troops in Gaza last night. Are you doing that now?
I am saying that the president has not committed to that just yet.
Well, it appears that he's now committing to it because, well, in early February, President Donald Trump suggested that the United States would send troops to Gaza. We would have boots on the ground to essentially assist Israel in ethnically cleansing Palestinians from the land that belongs to them. But today, Trump stated, that whole idea is back on, even though following backlash in February, he kind of backed off that message, Cenk. So during a sit down with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today, Donald Trump said this.
The IDF is fighting again in the Gaza Strip. I myself might be called up in a month. Do you think that's the way to pressure Hamas to get to a deal? And do you think blocking humanitarian aid is also an effective pressure tactic?
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate. And I think it's something that we would be involved in, but having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing.
So in other words, we're going to send the men and women of our armed forces to the Gaza Strip, boots on the ground, to serve as a peace force because Donald Trump sees the Gaza Strip as a very important piece of real estate. It's disgusting. Like, this whole thing is so utterly disgusting. Yeah. Absolutely. Not only is the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians disgusting, Cenk, but the idea of us, potentially risking the lives of our soldiers. Let's keep it real, on behalf of Israel. That's what this is really about. You think Israel's gonna be like, yeah, this belongs to the United States, which, by the way, I don't want it. Even if that was true, I wouldn't want it.
Yeah.
But it's not about the United States owning important real estate. This is about doing favors for Israel, in which, by the way, Donald Trump has been doing an excellent job looking out for his homie, Bibi Netanyahu.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get a lot into that. But first, on a slightly lighter note, Spider-Man Dragon writes on TYT.com, I guess Netanyahu will get his own room in the White House. I mean, he's there more than Melania. It does certainly seem that way. And Trump is certainly more polite to Netanyahu than he is to Melania. He holds Netanyahu's seat in. I'm not sure Melania gets similar treatment. So now, why is he so cozy with him? Look, obviously, we'll tell you again, he's gotten $337 million from just the Adelson family. Sheldon, who's now deceased, and Miriam, his widow, are very pro-right wing Israel, maniacally pro-Netanyahu. And in fact, Miriam is also an Israeli citizen. So he's literally getting his orders from an Israeli.
She should go live in Israel then.
Yeah, she should. Look,
like, why aren't you living in Israel? If Israel's so important, it's your #1 priority, go live in Israel. What are you doing on our land, on our soil, advocating for a foreign country? Go live over there.
And by the way, the Adelsons make most of their money in China, in Macau, China, where they have giant casinos. So she could also live in China, she could serve China or Israel. But since she gave President Trump $137 million in this last go around, to add to the $200 her husband gave him, he does whatever they order him to do. By the way, if you think I'm wrong and that Trump is not affected by $337 million, and that there's a different reason why he's doing whatever Netanyahu orders him to do, okay, no problem, right? But what is clear is the result. So he said that ridiculous thing about how we were gonna go control Gaza. We showed you some of the tape. But he even said we're going to get rid of the unexploded bombs in Gaza that Israel dropped, by the way, also paid for us. We paid to drop the bombs, or would pay to clean up the bombs, but most importantly, we'd pay with our lives, because the precious IDF shouldn't get hurt by those unexploded bombs. American soldiers should die instead. So that was his first proposal. Yep. There's a ton of pushback from MAGA, and he at least walked back the boots on the ground in Gaza, or so it seemed.
But then his daddy visited him.
Exactly.
In the White House.
So Netanyahu came this time around, and apparently with a belt. And so after he beat Trump inside the Oval Office a little bit, or did whatever he did to him, hey, we'll give you more money, or we'll threaten to do X, Y, or Z. Whatever he's got, magically Trump comes back out and is like, the US is going to control Gaza. Now this is important. First of all, to owning the Gaza, you'd have to be the biggest sucker in the world if you think that Netanyahu wants us to get rid of all the Palestinians, drive them out, and then just keep it instead of giving it back to Israel. I can't believe anybody would be that stupid and gullible as to believe that. No, this is all done in favor of Israel, at the behest of Israel. Israel will get that land 100% in that scenario. If you don't believe that, you're an idiot, okay, and have not followed politics at all in our lifetimes. Okay, now, so
by
why?
The way, I gotta jump in before you finish that. This is, by the way, what Trump is saying after Israel killed another American citizen in the West Bank. A story we'll get to in a little bit. Any words for the American that was killed by Israelis, Donald Trump? No, The American doesn't matter? Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, that's the third American in just the last couple of months in the West Bank. The IDF and the settlers are killing the Palestinians in the West Bank. That had nothing to do with October 7th. At a record pace, they're also displacing them at a record pace. They're trying to right now annex Gaza and portions of the West Bank. And we're supposed to pay for all this. And if it creates any more wars, we pay for that. We blame all the Muslims, we blame the Palestinians, we blame the Christians, we blame everyone, but not Israel. We do everything they want. But then now, the most important part is the word control. Right? So forget own, that is a 0% chance we're gonna own it. So why are they emphasizing control? Because in order to occupy Gaza, they have to actually get the Palestinians out. And so getting the Palestinians, there's over 2 million of them. Getting them out is literal genocide, literal ethnic cleansing, and it is nearly impossible. So Netanyahu doesn't want the IDF to do that. That's messy, they'll get blamed for it, and a lot of them will die, and they don't want that. So he wants America to do his dirty work for him.
Yep.
So he's like, come in here. How many times do I have to order you, Donald, okay? Don't make me take out the belt again like I did to Biden. Don't make me strap it around you and walk you around the goddamn park. I told you, you will drive out the Palestinians and control Gaza, and then you'll hand it back to me, and then I'll give you some real estate deal. We'll put a Trump Tower on there, and everybody's a winner, except all of American citizens, except Palestine, the Palestinians, and the whole world. So I'd like one American leader to prove that Israel doesn't control us. Go ahead.
I want to go to one more video. Again, this is Donald Trump sitting right next to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and talking about the future of Gaza and the United States' role in it.
For years and years, all I hear about is killing and Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone. You call it the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in, because they really don't. And when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said it. I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront property and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Oh my God. No, Israelis want to live there. Israelis want to live there. I love how he's like, oh, nobody wants to live there. No, Israelis want to live there. The Israeli government is getting you dumbass, to do the dirty work for them.
Yeah, you know who else wants to live there?
Jesus.
Palestinians. The ones that we're slaughtering right now, they want to live there. Israel killed another 50 people today. Why? Because it's a slaughterhouse. And you know, this is the 18-month anniversary of October 7th. A year and a half later, they're still pretending this is about October 7th.
It's ridiculous.
They murdered 50 people today, pretending it was about something that happened a year and a half ago that they knew 100% was gonna happen, they allowed to happen. Oh, do we have an excuse to slaughter the Palestinians and take their land? Oh, a year and a half later, oh, are we gonna make America pay for all of it? So here, give me another 20 billion, give me another 4 billion. He calls it a freedom zone. Yeah. The Palestinians are free to die. They're free to get moved out. Then the land will be free of the Palestinians. And oh, by the way, we're free to get robbed by Israel day in, day out, year in, year out.
That's right.
And then we'll be free of our money. And then Israel will use our money to slaughter more Palestinians or make us slaughter more Palestinians and have the whole world hate us, and then have other Muslims attack us because of what we've done to the Palestinians, and then go, you see how the Muslims are such radicals. They hate the West. You have to murder all the Muslims because they hate the West. They don't hate the West. They hate Israel because Israel keeps slaughtering Muslims and Christians, by the way, and taking their land. That's not complicated to figure out. And he takes that steaming pile of crap, he dumps it on America's lap and goes, let the American taxpayers deal with it and send in your guys to die instead of the beloved IDF. Do my dirty work for me, dog. And Donald Trump goes, "Ruh, ruh, ruh, ruh," and runs after his master.
During that press conference, when Trump was asked about the voters who wanted him to end the war in Gaza, not aid and abet the war in Gaza, or on Gaza, I should say, Trump says the war will stop at some point, but that point won't be, that won't be in the too distant future.
Yeah, that doesn't mean. What does that mean? What does that mean?
No, you're gonna do what Israel wants you to do, like a good boy. So, I mean, that's what he's done so far. Congratulations, you're a good boy for Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israeli government. Absolutely embarrassing. It's embarrassing for the American people that the leader of this country is aiding and abetting a genocide in Gaza and acting like a little bitch for Netanyahu. I thought he would be, I don't know, a little more. I thought he would maybe care about appearing strong more than Biden did, but no, I guess he's willing to be a bitch. And that's exactly what he is right now in regard to this issue. It's absolutely pathetic and embarrassing.
I think there's some chance that at some point Netanyahu will literally pat him on the head.
Oh, why wouldn't he?
Like, because he's treating him like just like he did with Biden. Like, look at this little boy that I bought.
It's pathetic.
Okay. Hey, walk around the park for me, okay, Donnie Doggy? And by the way, Trump's still talking about oceanfront property. And he's so stupid. Netanyahu, I guarantee you, Netanyahu was like, oh, it'll be Trump Towers. It's a beautiful oceanfront property. Remember Jared Kushner, his son-in-law was talking about that. He's like, they're beautiful oceanfront property. Why shouldn't we build there? Remember, after you murder all the Palestinians on our behalf and start several different wars against America, and you pay trillions of dollars in that direction, let alone lives lost, don't worry, we'll give you a Trump Tower or two on the ocean front. And that's what this dog is chasing after. So lastly, there's a perfect example of a place where you have to separate out the leaders from the voters, okay? So a lot of Trump voters will agree with Trump, and you'll see them all over social media going, oh yeah, the Palestinians don't belong there anyway, and we're gonna have the Riviera, and it's gonna be awesome. And Trump's a genius, and he has all this figured out. He's gonna magically move out all the Palestinians to nicer places that they want to go in these countries. None of that is true, okay? But there's also a huge section of Trump voters who are like, we said America first. We didn't say Israel first, and I'm really tired of this crap. I'm tired of paying for it. Some of them have moral qualms about what's happening to the Palestinians, but mainly it gets under their skin that this is obviously not America first, okay? And they have eyes and ears. So when you told them Biden was young, they didn't believe you. When you told them Biden was standing up to Israel, they didn't believe you. And now when Trump says, I'm standing up for America first, and I'm standing up to Israel, but like their dog, I will do anything they command me, they have eyes and ears. So that portion of independents and MAGA are not interested in this at all. Instead of yelling at those guys, let's make them our allies and unite in favor of America and not Israel.
Damn right. We're not done with Israel. When we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit about that American citizen who was killed by Israelis in the West Bank. And we're also gonna talk about how the topic of Israel has caused quite a fight between Dave Smith and Sam Harris. We'll be right back.
I am willing to go to jail if that's what it takes for our country.
All right, back on TYT. So first, let's go to our members on TYT.com. Eclectic wrote in a couple times. He says, so in the US, we don't have one president. We have a triumvirate of three presidents. Trump is in charge of destroying the economy with tariffs. Netanyahu is in charge of destroying Gaza. And Musk is in charge of destroying our government institutions. So that seems relatively right. And why, by the way? So largely because Mary Mandelson and Elon Musk are two out of his top three donors. Corden Biggie wrote in, I'm trying to buy my first house. I'm planning on using my 401k for a penalty-free withdrawal on the down payment. They asked me 2 weeks ago if I'd like to withdraw it then. Wish I had. See, that directly affects people. What if you're trying to buy a house now and you were gonna use your 401k and it just took a nosedive? So the idea that Besson had in the beginning of the program that we showed you, nobody will be worried about it. You gotta be mental to think that. Which then again, another point here from Boomer Dragon Cat says, I'm not sure how finagling a better deal with a couple of countries needed to cost me my retirement. I'm reassessing my lifestyle as we speak. Here, Cat. So there was a billion better ways to renegotiate some trade deals without blowing up the entire economy. Miss World says, I think the wealthy thought they weren't going to be touched by any of this at all. That's the point I was making earlier. Their plan was threaten tariffs, do light tariffs, say they're gonna magically create $6 trillion, and after the tax cuts, get rid of the tariffs. We win both directions. But Trump didn't listen this time, and Trump instead did these gigantic tariffs. And so the donors are not happy about it, including Elon, and corporations are not happy about it. And so in this case, they really are pissed because Trump didn't do it right at all, even for their nefarious plan. Virginia in South Carolina says, if I didn't talk to conservatives or independents, I would literally be stuck talking to myself in my closet like Harry Potter. Okay, notice Virginia in South Carolina, okay. Virginia, that's true. And by the way, she's part of Operation Hope. She does talk to others and does convince them, which I love. Rap wrote in, Cenk, please let us know how we can get that fool dump out of office. Well, bad news on that front. Elections have consequences. 4 years, buckle up. Yeah.
This is the most important thing, okay? To my fellow Democratic voters, when the next election comes around, when the primaries are happening, please do not aid and abet by providing cover for garbage Democrats. Tell the truth. Don't get mad at other Democrats who are telling the truth, like what happened to us. Okay, call a spade a spade. We need to stop enabling trash, do-nothing Democrats. That's the most important thing.
So I'll double down on that. The main way to get them out of office eventually, and all these guys out of office, is to have a great candidate on our side. There's someone that people believe will actually deliver for them. That's what we got to do. So if the Democrats have a crappy candidate, let's all figure out how to get a better one. Why do you think we started that thing against Biden? Because I didn't want to lose to Trump. But unfortunately, MSNBC has turned so many people into zombies that they're like, no, never criticize a Democrat. If you find the most pathetic, ridiculous Democrat, as long as they're anointed by leadership, we should just all pretend they're Prince Charming and amazing and they're gonna win. No, actually stand up, question them, challenge them, etc., so we can actually win these races. And we've got a plan coming up for that. So stick around here. We're the rare people who actually have plans to win. We'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, Devin Avila, and Stephen Kelly. Devin and Stephen, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. They hit the join button below. You can do likewise. And you get 2 months off annual membership if you go to tyt.com and join through there. Love you either way. Casper.
Well, we got to talk about this feud between Dave Smith, who is absolutely correct on Israel, and Sam Harris, who doesn't want anyone who's correct on Israel to get any airtime. Let's get into it.
Joe is a genuinely good guy who wants good things for people, but he is honestly in over his head on so many topics of great consequence, right? When he brings someone on to just shoot the shit about, how the Holocaust is not what you think it was, right? And maybe Churchill's the bad guy in World War II.
Is that Tucker?
Or he's got Dave Smith, being treated as an expert on Israel and Palestine.
Things are getting pretty heated between Sam Harris and libertarian comedian Dave Smith over the issue of Israel. Now, there might be some issues that we disagree with Dave Smith on, but I'm speaking for myself. He's absolutely correct on Israel, and in fact, I love hearing him on various shows spitting the truth about what's been going on in regard to Israel's persecution and land theft of Palestinians. Now, Harris, an ardent Israel defender, got his dander up about Joe Rogan hosting Smith and allowing him to speak out against the genocide in Gaza. Take a look.
He's got Dave Smith, being treated as an expert on Israel and Palestine and the history of that conflict and the moral emergency that came to the world's attention on October 7th, and what is appropriate to think in the aftermath of all of that, right? Dave Smith is the only reason why anyone knows what Dave Smith thinks about any of this is very likely because Joe had him on multiple times to talk about it, right? He's a pure misinformation artist. It is irresponsible. I mean, it is directly harmful. Our society is as politically shattered as it is in part because of how Joe has interacted with information.
A little bit of specificity would be helpful in this situation in which he's throwing jabs at Dave Smith for allegedly spreading misinformation about Israel, because everything that I've heard him say about Israel has been accurate. It's just that usually in American media, telling the truth about Israel is not allowed, but Joe Rogan kind of creates a loophole to that, doesn't he?
Yeah, so Dave Smith is a huge problem for supporters of Israel. So one, he's armed with excellent facts, and so you're not going to be able to shake him off of his game. So any of the nonsense talking points that they have prepared, the same propaganda they, we're all deal with. Oh, they're human shields. Hamas made us kill them all. America is a special ally, and in order to save Western civilization, we must murder more Palestinians, right? All this stuff he knocks down easily. Second of all, they can't call him anti-Semitic, so it's driving them crazy, right? Because they're one-trick ponies. Anytime anybody's a critic of Israel, anti-Semite, right? And so that's not working, and so they're super frustrated. I mean, look at the words that Sam Harris uses. The moral emergency that came to the world's attention on October 7th. So the occupation for 58 years is not a moral emergency. Slaughtering over 50,000 Palestinians is not a moral emergency. Slaughtering over 15,000 children, not a moral emergency at all, beloved moral Israel. I can't believe Dave Smith gets it wrong by not realizing how moral the IDF is and how the Palestinians deserve to be slaughtered. What's wrong with you, Dave? Why are you treating them like they're other human beings? Don't you know that Israelis' lives are worth $1 billion any other life? Okay, that's the real moral emergency here. So guys, we're open-minded and we do nuance here. So there's some things that Sam Harris says about the Trump administration, et cetera, that I agree with, okay? So I don't have to shut off everything when it comes to Sam Harris or Dave Smith. And I massively disagree with Dave on Social Security, happy to debate that, et cetera, right? And there's issues, but on Israel, Sam Harris is in that Bill Maher group of, I don't care about any other issue. We're gonna paint all Muslims as evil and violent and savages. And we're gonna just support Israel as they slaughter and slaughter, occupy and grab more land. And if anyone dares criticize, including Dave Smith or anyone else, anyone on the right or the left, we're gonna call them anti-Semites, terrorists, blah, 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 and we're gonna do propaganda. Well, too bad, Sam, you just got caught. You got caught by the right, the left, and everyone in the middle.
In fact, let's trigger him a little more. Here's a little tasty taste of Dave Smith absolutely killing it on Rogan's podcast.
We're going into like 60 years of complete Israeli control over these people. And under Israeli control, they have zero rights. Zero rights whatsoever. I mean, like, they don't have the freedom of movement. They don't have freedom to trade with the outside world. They don't have voting rights. They don't have the right of due process. Maybe the US shouldn't be funding and arming the whole goddamn conflict. Maybe we shouldn't have a system where like our political class is not allowed to criticize a foreign government, and a foreign government that's gotten us into like 7 wars, at least played a large role in getting us into those wars explicitly.
Preach it.
Yeah.
Now, Dave Smith did respond to Sam Harris, writing on X in response to Harris. Sam's correct. The only reason that anybody even knows who I am is because of Joe Rogan. I should have earned it the old-fashioned way by having my mother create the Golden Girls. Effing clown. Now look, I didn't realize that Sam Harris's mother created the Golden Girls. It makes me like him a little more. But with that said, in this fight, in this tiff, I'm gonna side with Dave Smith for speaking the truth. And look, there are a lot of people out there who know Sam Harris specifically because of his appearances on Joe Rogan. Okay, so don't be the gatekeeper in regard to who Joe Rogan's allowed to speak to because you don't like what one of his guests had to say accurately about how Israel's been prosecuting this war in Gaza.
Well, ding, 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 we have got a winner. That's what they're actually worried about. Dave Smith's a thorn on their side because they can't use their tricks on him. And he keeps pointing out things that are true, like, well, we've given him $300 billion. Why are we letting this foreign country control us? Now, normally they go, anti-Semite, tropes, but they can't do that to Dave. So, it drives him nuts, right? So, number two, though, the bigger point, he's influencing Rogan and the brosphere. And now the Sam Harris of the world realize how important Rogan and the bro shows are. And so they're panicked about losing them. Because it's much easier to control Fox News. You just need one guy, Rupert Murdoch. And Murdoch's been on the side of Israel his entire career, right? So Murdoch orders all of his dogs on Fox News, say, support Israel 100%. You're not ever allowed to criticize them. And that could be a firing offense at Fox News. So the propaganda on the right wing was on lockdown. Now here comes Joe Rogan and all these bros, and they're like, no, we like Trump. Part of the reason we kind of like Trump is because he's America first, and not this Israel first crap is not that interesting to us.
And by the way, Rogan,
and Dave's egging that on in an awesome way.
He is egging that on in an awesome way, and I want to give credit to Rogan because despite any disagreements I've had with Rogan in the past, he's always been pretty good on the issue of Israel.
Yeah, and you know why? Because look, that is common sense. So that's like, wait, why did we give them $300 billion and get nothing in return? Why did we start all these wars on their behalf and get nothing in return? Why do we continue to give them a blank check as they slaughter 50 times the number of people Hamas did? How does that help America? Why are we on the side of that? So look, last thing for me on all this is, so Sam has been, pushing the anti-Muslim hate for decades. So I had a 3-hour debate with him here on the Young Turks. I can't believe it, but I think it's been over a decade now that we had that.
It has.
And back then, what was his thing? He's like, oh, I think they were calling themselves new atheists at that time. And the whole point of it shouldn't have been, I'm an atheist, right? But Sam misdirected that group into saying, no, the whole point of new atheists is all the religions are not good and we don't believe them, but the Muslims are the worst. The Muslims are the most violent, the worst, most despicable religion and culture. Remember, they should always be occupied by Israel. So, Sam, you're caught in every way. Everybody knows your tricks now.
And I want to bolster what Dave Smith believes and what he's been saying in these interviews, because every day there's a new, atrocious, awful story involving innocent people getting slaughtered by the IDF, by Israeli settlers. And I want to talk a little bit about 14-year-old Amer Rabi, an American citizen from Saddlebrook, New Jersey, who was shot dead by Israeli forces on Sunday in the West Bank for allegedly throwing stones. Okay, the IDF apparently believes a 14-year-old boy is deserving of death if he allegedly throws stones. And I say allegedly because I don't believe anything that the IDF says. They've been caught in way too many lies for me to be naive enough to believe anything that they say at face value. So with that in mind, the shooting happened in Turmus Aya, which is known colloquially as Little America, because around 85% of the population is, well, they have US citizenship. Okay, so the Israeli military said its soldiers opened fire during a counterterrorism operation in the area when they saw 3 terrorists who hurled rocks toward the highway, thus endangering civilians driving. The shots that Rabi faced proved fatal. His friend Ayub Jabara, 15, also an American citizen, is in intensive care in Ramallah, according to the mayor. Their other friend, a 15-year-old, was also hospitalized by the attack. So here's Rabi's relative recounting what allegedly happened.
الساعة 4:30 اليوم العصر تفاجأنا في إطلاق نار على الطريق الالتفاف القريب من طرمس هيا. بعد شوية سمعنا أخبار طبعا اللي سمعتوها تم يعني نصب كمين لهؤلاء الأطفال من قبل قوات الاحتلال واطلاق النار مباشر دون سابق انذار عليهم، ولكن ان يعني الله سلم اثنين نفذوا، والشهيد هذا على المحل كان هناك في اكثر من 5 اصابات في الراس وفي الصدر وفي الاطراف اصابات رصاص طبعا.
It's absolutely disgusting. So to combat the criticism that Israel knew was coming, the Israeli military shared a blurry 10-second video purportedly showing the incident. Now, you're looking at the video right now. You can't really see much at all, but you can see 3 figures. At the end of the clip, one of the people appears to throw an object, and that's what they're using to justify killing a 14-year-old boy. Now, if you're wondering, what else we're hearing, hilariously, the Israeli military said it would continue operating in the West Bank to protect the residents in the area.
Yeah, that's rich. After the Israeli settlers murder Palestinians, right. They'll protect the murderers and help them murder more Palestinians.
So I should note, we haven't heard a damn thing from President Donald Trump in regard to an American citizen getting killed by IDF forces. But there is a statement from a State Department spokesperson who offered condolences to the family and said the US was aware of the IDF statement, but said out of respect for the family's privacy, would have no further comment at this time.
That doesn't respect the family at all. That says to the family, even though you're an American citizen, we don't care about you at all. Our beloved Israel has murdered you, and we won't even say we're sorry or they're sorry or there's gonna be any consequences. They not only opened fire in the West Bank, which is very normal for the IDF, they murder people there on the regular, okay? Right. And there's no consequences. Their kangaroo courts say that they're not guilty over 99% of the time. There's absolutely no justice in Israel for Palestinians. Israel is one of the most atrocious, barbaric states in how they deal with the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Those poor people have no rights at all. They're murdered wantonly by the Israeli settlers and the police and the IDF, and there's almost never any punishment. Okay, now, they didn't just open fire in the West Bank, they opened fire in Little America, a place known as Little America. You know why they did that? Because they know there's gonna be no consequences. They know that both Biden and Trump were in their back pocket. So when they murdered 2 Americans recently under Biden, Biden was nearly apologizing to Israel, right? Oh yeah, I'm so sorry, our American boys got in the way of your beautiful, moral Israeli bullets. We're so sorry. Now, to be fair, that wasn't the exact statement, but there was no consequence at all. They said, don't worry, just like Trump, the Israelis will investigate this. And of course, they'll find themselves completely innocent. You know, one time the Israelis murdered an American. She was a Christian girl that went to protest what was happening. This was a while back. And they ran her over with a steamroller, and the most gruesome death you've ever seen. And the Israeli court said, oh, it was an accident. There will be no legal consequences. You could murder Americans all day, all night if you're Israel. No consequences. Like, so sometimes people will say, hey, Cenk, you wanna go to Israel? I'm like, what are you, nuts? They'd murder me in a second, dump my body somewhere in a mass grave, and American presidents would celebrate as long as the cash clears. So
this is the 3rd time since February that Israel has killed an American citizen. So, 3rd time since February, at least, that we know of.
Yeah, nothing's gonna get done because America 2nd or 18th. Israel always first, always, under all administrations, finally. Guys, just think about it morally from your own perspective. Now, let's take their worst case scenario, let's take the IDF at its word, which you should never do, but let's take their fact pattern here. And they say, these 3 14-year-olds threw rocks at cars that were passing by. Now, if 14-year-olds threw rocks at my car, I'd be super mad. And I'm sure you would too, right? You'd stop, you'd see they were 14-year-olds, and you'd chase them away, presumably, or do something, call the police, etc. Would you murder them? Would you? I'm asking you a real question. You see they're 14-year-olds. would you shoot, and they shot all 3 of them. It's just 2 of them, one's in bad shape, but survived. The other one got grazed. This poor kid got killed. Would you try to murder all 3 of those 14-year-olds for throwing a rock? I know I wouldn't. There's no way I would. I don't care, Palestinian, Israeli, American, Chinese, I don't care. There's no way I murder those poor kids. But no, Israel's like, no, the moral thing to do is to slaughter them. And they're Americans, who cares? We control America completely. Washington is occupied territory. AIPAC was the #1 donor in this campaign cycle. If you're pretending that had no influence on our politicians, you're a moron or a liar of epic proportions.
All right, we've got major breaking news when we come back from the break.
Yeah, that's a good question. Mr. Scruffy04 asks on Twitch, I wonder what kind of punishment the soldiers would face if the 15-year-old boys had been Jewish. Oh, severe. I mean, if they were inside Israel, imagine what would have happened, by the way, if the Palestinians had killed 15,000 Israeli children. I mean, they slaughtered almost all the Palestinians and we paid for it after 36 Israeli children were killed. And that was heartbreaking and terrible. 15,000 Israeli children, they'd nuke countries. We'd nuke countries on their behalf because Israeli children are worth more than all the other children in the world combined. It's impossible not to be disgusted with that way of thinking. And don't tell me that they don't think that. They 1000% believe that. Otherwise they wouldn't act like this. If those are Jewish Israeli kids that Israel was killing day after day after day, 50 at a time, 80 at a time. Oh, look, there's a school full of children, murder them all. If they were Israelis, you think people wouldn't go nuts? You think Israel wouldn't go nuts? You think America wouldn't go nuts? There is no person who is intellectually honest that could say, oh yes, with a straight face. We wouldn't mind if those were Israeli children being murdered. But we don't mind when it's Palestinian children murdered by the terrorist state of Israel. Now, we fund terrorists.
Yeah, we do.
We fund terrorists.
We absolutely do.
And yes, governments can be terrorists.
Yep.
And that is exactly what the Israeli government is. And if you tell me that 50,000 dead innocent people and 15,000 dead children and 25,000 women and children, and these numbers are the lowest possible, a stadium full of women and children, that they killed them by accident, please don't embarrass yourself by making such outrageously stupid and unjustifiable comments. And if you say, no, it's okay, we get to murder them because they're human shields and it's Hamas's fault. Shut up. Jesus Christ, have you no decency?
They don't have decency. Go ahead and cry about it, but it's the truth. No decency.
Don't tell me that you care about those Palestinian children. I don't see you protesting. All I see from Israeli supporters is, rah, rah, Israel. We have to protect Israel. Who cares about those Palestinian children? They're irrelevant. They're irrelevant. Don't tell me that you don't think they're irrelevant. You think they're irrelevant, otherwise you'd be just as mad as I am. But you're not mad at them because you think Palestinian lives are worthless. That's what you think. For once in your life, admit it. No, beloved Israel. Jesus Christ, man. Jesus, have you no decency? Who cares about a stupid government? You see me doing that? Oh, Erdogan. Oh, it's the Turkish government. You're not allowed to criticize it. Who cares if he takes away democracy? No, I have decency and principles. It matters. It matters. But no, total blindness from Israeli supporters. Israel can commit every atrocity, every act of evil. Israel can copy literal words that the Germans used, tactics that the Germans used. 5 weeks they've been starving the Palestinians. Everything is okay as long as Israel does it. I loathe it. back on TYT Jankanano.
Let's get to our next story.
A lower court judge on Friday night ruled against you with respect to Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, who is somebody who was living in Maryland. He was under an order not to be deported because of fears or danger that he may face back in El Salvador. The government has admitted there was an error in deporting him, but this judge has said you've got a deadline midnight Monday to get him back from El Salvador.
Well, not anymore, because the Supreme Court has just weighed in and they are helping the Trump administration by temporarily pausing the court-imposed midnight deadline to return Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man, by the way, mistakenly deported to El Salvador, back to the United States. In fact, there's a huge breaking story as we speak, because the Supreme Court has also weighed in on whether or not the Trump administration can use, the Alien Enemies Act, which is a wartime law to deport alleged gang members. Venezuelan gang members specifically were at the heart of this case, and the Supreme Court on Monday, meaning today, removed this temporary block on the Trump administration's use of a controversial wartime authority to deport alleged members of the Venezuelan gang, ruling against the immigrants, essentially, who were challenging this action by the Trump administration. They write in their decision that the detainees are confined, in Texas. So venue is improper in the District of Columbia. The justices wrote of the challenge in the US District Court in DC. As a result, the government is likely to succeed on the merits of this action. So the 5-4 ruling, of course, the liberal justices ruled against the Trump administration. The conservative justices did not touch on the underlying legal questions of the challenge, according to the Washington Post. It leaves open the possibility the migrants could refile their case in Texas or other jurisdictions where they are detained. But I want to get back to Abrego Garcia in just a moment, but Cenk, first you jump in.
Yeah, so look, it might be a fig leaf because it's just a jurisdictional issue. Where they hold the case is relevant because it depends. You'll get a different judge and a more conservative judge in Texas, but at the end of the day, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. So this could be a small victory that they hand Trump, especially if they're planning to rule against them later on the substance of the case. But now I'm speculating. I have no idea which way they're gonna rule on the substance of the case. But one thing I do know is that the courts are the most important part of this entire equation. If the courts don't hold, we're all screwed and there is no remedy, okay? The courts have to actually follow the law and the Constitution. They don't have to rule against Trump. They just have to rule against him or anyone else if he violates the Constitution or the laws. And he has to follow court orders. That's the most important thing. In a sense here, they bought time on the original case that Anna's gonna go back to so that Trump can follow the court's orders. And I'm sure that Justice Roberts had that in mind when he did this.
Yes.
Because the number one thing he's trying to preserve is the court's authority, which is a good thing that he's doing that.
Right, so Chief Justice John Roberts agreed to a request from President Trump to give both sides more time, essentially, to make their arguments. Okay, so again, as it relates to Kilmar Abrego Garcia, this is a temporary decision, right? This isn't a permanent decision in regard to what Trump can and can't do when it comes to specific migrants who were deported, in this case, mistakenly. And that's not based on my interpretation. That's based on the lawyers representing the Trump administration in this particular case. Now, he ordered lawyers in the case to respond by 5 p.m. Tuesday. The Justice Department told the Supreme Court that the lower court's order to return the man was unprecedented and could not be done because the man that they admit they mistakenly deported to El Salvador, okay, to an absolute hellhole, CCOT, that facility to detain terrorists and gang members, they're like, well, he's in El Salvadorian custody now, so we can't get him back. Solicitor General John Sawyer told the Supreme Court in his filing on Monday, even amidst a deluge of unlawful injunctions, this order is remarkable. The Constitution charges the president, not federal district courts, with the conduct of foreign diplomacy and protecting the nation against foreign terrorists, including by effectuating their removal. While the United States concedes that removal to El Salvador was an administrative error, that does not license district courts to seize control over foreign relations, treat the executive branch as a subordinate diplomat, and demand that the United States let a member of a foreign terrorist organization into America tonight. Okay, the guy that we're talking about here is not a foreign terrorist. The guy that we're talking about right now is someone who was in the country legally, and by the Trump administration's own admission was mistakenly deported to another country without any due process.
So, but I want you to understand what they're saying. They're saying, yeah, we know we made a mistake and sent the wrong guy to that torture prison, but we refuse to get him out.
And we don't want to deal with the courts. We don't think the courts should have a say, essentially.
Yeah, and by the way, we can't get him out even if we wanted to because that's the business of El Salvador.
No, it's not.
No, wait, you're telling me you sent people to that hellhole, and including wrong people, innocent people, and you think you have no way of getting them out if you made a mistake? What if you sent an American citizen? What if you sent someone like that? And so this idea that they don't have any control over El Salvador and they can't get people back is nothing but a giant and obvious lie. Of course they can get them back. The fact that they're saying we know he's innocent but we don't want him back and we want him tortured in that prison is unbelievable. And then finally to say, oh, the courts have no role in telling us or the executive branch what to do. No, that's literally the job of the courts. They said, well, we declared him a foreign terrorist. Well, how do we know he's a foreign terrorist? That's what the courts are supposed to decide, whether he's a terrorist or not. Otherwise, you could just pick up any American citizen, send him to a dungeon in El Salvador and go, well, we decided he was a foreign terrorist and we don't care.
Even under oath, the Department of Justice has been unable to give a clear answer as to why they are unable to return Garcia to the United States. Pressed by US District Judge Paula Zinnes about why the US couldn't bring him back, DOJ lawyer Arez Ruveni says this: the first thing I did when I got this case on my desk is ask my clients the same question. Okay.
Yeah, and here's my question. How could he be innocent and a foreign terrorist at the same time? They make the most asinine, ridiculous comments in court. And their own lawyer, we covered it at the end of last week, that same guy that Anna just quoted. When the judge asked him, under what authority are you doing this? He said, honestly, I don't know, I'm asking the same questions. They go in totally unprepared, don't care about American laws and the American Constitution at all. And now they're sending innocent people and saying we'll never get them back, even if we think they're innocent.
And Trump wants to send Americans to that facility in El Salvador.
Yeah,
literally.
He said it.
Yep.
And so if you think, oh, it's hyperbolic to say that they would do this to Americans. No, Trump literally said he would like to do it to Americans. And if he sends one of you to a dungeon, to a different country, and guess what he'll say? He's innocent, but a foreign terrorist, and there's no way we can get him back.
All right, that does it for today's show, the main show at least. But we've got a lot more to get to that we unfortunately didn't get to in the main show. So please check out our members only bonus episode, tyt.com/join to become a member. And if you're already a member, that's awesome. We'll see you in just a few.